Good afternoon. I'm Patty Johnson, coordinator of the Southeastern Council of Foundations Engagement Initiative. This afternoon, we're delighted to present our program, The Social and Economic Value of Senior Entrepreneurship in Today's New Longevity Economy. It is hosted by the Patterson Foundation, represented by Michael Corley, the Senior Consultant for Administration, and presented by Elizabeth Isele, the co-founder of Senior Entrepreneurship Works. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael, and we'll get started.
Patty, thank you. It's a pleasure for us at the Patterson Foundation to introduce today's webinar. The Patterson Foundation, based in Sarasota, Florida, is a $225 million private foundation which focuses its resources on leveraging collaborations and partnerships. We believe that through the power of connective tissue, new realities can be created. Our connective tissue to today's presenter is from our relationships and/or partnerships with Institute for the Ages, Encore Fellows, National Council on Aging, and ASA, among others. Elizabeth Isele is an award-winning serial social entrepreneur who, after a 30-year distinguished career in publishing, has launched several successful organizations designed to advance seniors' health and economic well-being, including SeniorEntrepreneurshipWorks.org, eeprom and cyberseniors.org. Elizabeth is a Senior Innovation Fellow at Babson College and an advisor on senior entrepreneurship for the Corporation of Enterprise Development. Elizabeth writes a blog, SavvySeniorWorks.com, with readers worldwide, and has published a series of articles that focus on over 50 entrepreneurship. She was named a Journalism and Aging Fellow by the MetLife Foundation and Gerontological Society of America. Elizabeth is considered an expert in the field, is continually quoted in publications such as the New York Times, and is invited to speak on the topic of senior entrepreneurship at major government, private philanthropic, academic, and nonprofit economic convenings, including recently at the White House, the U.S. Senate, and the EU Commission, and around the globe. Her impressive credentials continue, but I will stop there so that we can hear from Elizabeth herself. Elizabeth, we look forward to your discussion.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Patty, for bringing all the technology to bear on this case so we have an opportunity to talk with many people around the country. Actually, the first webinar I ever did was for grant makers in aging, so it feels very comfortable to come back home to an audience such as yours. And I will be speaking today. The subject, of course, is New Engines for a New Economy, and that's how we refer to senior entrepreneurs. I'm delighted to say that I'm a senior entrepreneur myself, having crossed the barrier of 70 a year ago. So I speak from my own experience as well as the experience of others with whom we've worked. And what we really are trying to demonstrate is that seniors and senior entrepreneurship in particular is driving social, economic, and environmental growth in communities and the nation and the world. So it's not just seniors becoming individually economically self-reliant, which of course is hugely important, but the ramification of their becoming economically self-reliant reverberates throughout their communities and the country, and that's what makes us so exciting. As we like to say that with all the gloom and doom you hear about the silver tsunami coming and encroaching over the territories of the world, we much prefer to call this the golden dividend. And with that, I'm going to proceed through the slides so you have a framework for what I'm talking about. Sometimes I'll go very quickly because I know they're rather text dense, but we will leave at least 10 minutes at the end of my going through the slides. If anyone has any questions, or my contact information is on the screen now, and if you have any follow-up questions you don't have a chance to articulate this afternoon, I'd be happy to address them at any time. The scope of the presentation is, first I'm going to give you an overview of the social, environmental, and economic impact of senior entrepreneurship in what we call today's global longevity economy. And the second part of the presentation will be to help you identify, support, and sustain senior entrepreneurs through programs, policy, capitalization, and research. In the new longevity economy, it's really divided into two specific aspects. We have a passive market versus the proactive engine. And by that, we mean that we need to integrate both half of these. And I will, in the next slide, we talk about passive. And the passive part of the longevity economy is the young entrepreneurs primarily who are suddenly creating products. They recognize that this huge demographic presents a tremendous market opportunity, and it's been identified as a $3 trillion market opportunity in the U.S. and $15 trillion globally. The proactive side of the longevity economy is that seniors age 50 plus are creating and driving economic markets and asset growth in the U.S. and globally. Oops, sorry, just lost a slide here. Seniors as the market opportunity, as I said a second ago, are that millions of innovators and brand managers, marketers, product designers are just jumping onto this bandwagon because they want a piece of the $1 trillion pie. There's an organization I'd highly recommend called Aging 2.0, which really is a global network of innovators who are focused on what can be created for this huge demographic, which is growing at 10,000 a day. The problem is that with all of those young people creating products for the seniors, there's been very little integration of what the seniors might actually want. And this is very important because otherwise the products that we get really foster the old stereotypical ideas about creating products for this market, and that those products have to be palliative in nature. And they highlight and reinforce with those products the debilitating effects of aging. And most of their product innovation to date is primarily aimed at the olds who are age 75 and up. And the one really stunning statistic that I learned up on Capitol Hill just about a month ago was that now in Japan, which has the oldest senior population in the world, the return on investment for diapers is huge in the adult market, and it dwarfs the creation of diapers for the baby market. And here we talk about defining the entrepreneur who is creating and driving economic markets. And many of you may already know some of these statistics. We're talking about a highly creative demographic, courageous, enlightened, and we want to unleash their potential. Research demonstrates that 34 million boomers now want to start their own businesses. And contrary to commonly held perception that only young people start businesses, the highest rate of business startup in the United States is in the 55 to 64-year-old age bracket. In the UK, I've just returned from a phenomenal conference in Ireland on senior enterprise. Third-age entrepreneurs are responsible for over 1/4 of all new business startups. The second bullet here from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor is extremely relevant because it really highlights the fact that a business launched by an individual over age 50 is still in business after 5 years. And that is dramatically different from the typical business startup, which is no longer in business after 5 years, many of which are no longer in business after just 1 year. And the other thing that comes up is that seniors who are creating businesses are really competing with the younger market. They're taking some of that market share. And again, there's a lot of Debbie Downers out there who are thinking that, you know, this is a negative. Well, contrary to that, there was a wonderful article which I've highlighted here in the New York Times recently about how many retirees are starting businesses with the young partners, young entrepreneurs as partners for this. And it really is a double benefit for both age groups in terms of the cross-mentoring possibility, the seniors bringing their whole life work experience to the entrepreneurial table, and the young entrepreneurs bringing their technology and social media marketing skills to the table. So you create a really strong business startup when you get that kind of intergenerational collaboration. The other interesting fact that just really recently was released is the ways in which boomers embrace risk. And people, again, tend to think that the young people are the ones that are really taking all the risks and the challenges. But the research really identifies that the boomers, and here I've broken down the ages because I always tend to get them slightly confused. The boomers born 1946 to 64, 43% of them identify themselves as high-risk takers compared to Generation X, born between 65 and 76. It's just 40%. And interestingly enough, the millennials are more risk-adverse than any of these other demographics, and they only have 28% identify themselves as high-risk takers. And I would like to just really touch upon the social benefits and the economic ROI derived from senior entrepreneurs. First, of course, is the individual's health and well-being and economic self-reliance. And then is the communities, including employers' health and well-being. The economic considerations are workforce development, job creation, improved productivity, and wealth creation as senior entrepreneurs pour investment dollars back into their communities. And environmentally, 60%, and this is a very conservative figure because it keeps growing with the seniors with whom we work, but more than 60% of them are building green businesses. And the last bullet on this page is extremely important because many seniors are building just small or even micro businesses, and people sometimes poo-poo that as not really having an economic impact. Quite the contrary, research that was developed by the Association for Enterprise Opportunity, and again, I have the link to this research. It can be found, the link to it from their home page, is that if just 1 in 3 micro businesses in the United States hired an additional employee, the U.S. would be at full employment. More social and economic benefits from the senior demographic entrepreneur. The senior entrepreneurs and employed adults contribute $120 billion in federal taxes. And this supports, this mitigates people who are saying that the seniors are draining the health and Social Security programs when in actuality they are contributing and continue to underwrite those programs. So when we say they're contributing $120+ billion in federal taxes, this does not include what they're contributing in state taxes. Senior entrepreneurs also present a new market lending opportunity for lenders, which is extremely valuable to them. I learned early on when I started talking about the power and potential of senior entrepreneurship that if I went to Capitol Hill or the White House or any place else and said, well, this is something we should be doing to keep seniors healthy and economically self-reliant and it is good for them, people would mostly just sort of yawn in my face. But when I start talking about the fact that these seniors starting new businesses are creating this tax revenue, generating tax revenue, they are creating jobs, they do present a new market lending opportunity, and we've taken it through community banks, through the CDFI fund, through the U.S. Treasury Department, and earlier this month I did a webinar for the Federal Reserve on the fact that this demographic, these 34 million self-identified senior entrepreneurs, will be taking business loans, which are going to certainly return very positive economic ROI for the lending institutions. The digital opportunities are also incredible because, again, people think of this very narrowly when they should be thinking across all markets, in that seniors starting businesses have really an increased demand for technology to get those businesses up and running, to underwrite them, to do their accounting, all kinds of applications and programs that they're using, not to mention that many of these seniors with small and micro businesses are creating online businesses, so they're technology driven. So not only is the senior entrepreneur a new market opportunity for the banks and the lenders, but they are also for the technology industry. And the last bullet here, which is, again, incredibly important, is their intellectual capital. So if we engage seniors in both business creation and in supporting new and existing entrepreneurs, we maximize the wealth of experience the seniors possess, cultivate intergenerational learning, and really ensure knowledge transfer. This last point is very important in terms of we're not just talking about seniors who are creating businesses now to underwrite their extra 20 to 30 years that they've been given in longevity. We're talking about seniors who are creating a whole new paradigm of retirement. So what the seniors are doing today is having an impact on the 30 and 40-year-olds, and indeed we'll go back to the 20-year-olds who are just entering the workforce, who will have a whole different paradigm for their exit strategy than certainly any of us over 60 years old had ever imagined. And the additional social benefits and economic ROI, of course, are all the collaborative opportunities for seniors who don't want to launch a business of their own but are working with other seniors and they're bringing all the resources that they have to the table in terms of just intellectual capital as well as knowledge-based capital, and this is intergenerational as well. And as we say, they are creating a whole new paradigm for aging and retirement. And the world is just beginning to recognize seniors. The fact that you're all on the telephone today to hear more about seniors as entrepreneurs demonstrates that this is a movement that is gaining traction. The more people know and understand the power of this demographic as an opportunity, the more it's going to continue to grow. So indeed, we have an opportunity to change this paradigm of aging and retirement. The second half is how do we create and sustain these senior entrepreneurs? So is the abbreviation for Senior Entrepreneurship Works. And we are creating and sustaining senior entrepreneurs through collaborative enterprise. We work with Babson College with its ETNA, which is a phenomenal method of teaching entrepreneurship called ETNA for Entrepreneurial Thought and Action. We work also with the Lawrence N. Field Center of Entrepreneurship at Baruch College and are working collaboratively to serve senior entrepreneurs through the United States and abroad. And our collaboration represents a unique approach to support and sustain through programs, policy, capitalization, and research. I'll go into some more detail in terms of we have education programs for senior entrepreneurs. Our education programs are hybrid learning entrepreneurship curriculum. And we have the content that we've created through this collaboration, which involves both Babson and Baruch colleges. We have these programs that really incorporate the entire entrepreneurial development arc, if you will, for seniors who want to start their own businesses. And that arc begins with awareness. Because as I said earlier, we now have 34 million seniors who have self-identified as wanting to start their own business. They self-identify as entrepreneurs. That excludes a tremendous proportion of the population who are totally intimidated by the word entrepreneur, would never consider themselves an entrepreneur. And the eProv Studio is a brand new program that I've developed with the people at Babson because I thought, how do we reach those millions of people that do not self-identify? And we thought we need to help people understand how really they have been thinking entrepreneurially all their lives. We take people decade by decade through their lives and identify accomplishments and skills needed to get there, et cetera, and what resources they use to achieve those accomplishments. It's a program I am truly most excited about. In all of our programs, when you talk about entrepreneurship education, there are many programs out there in the world that are extremely helpful. And what they do is they teach the what of entrepreneurship, how to create a business, how to network with others, how to incubate and accelerate your business. The one missing link was the eProv Studio, which we have. It's just a day-and-a-half program where we combine the ETNA, entrepreneurship, education, and action, with the art of improvisation. and we are going to be actually piloting this program at the Positive Aging Conference in Sarasota this February, and we're doing a whole pre-conference session on that. And we are very excited. We have specifically brought it to Sarasota and the Tampa Bay region because they have a real ecosystem to support senior entrepreneurship, supporting entrepreneurship in general, but also supporting senior entrepreneurship. And it's the kind of thing we look for, because when we start programs, when we bring people into this whole ecosystem of understanding that they too are entrepreneurs, it's not just something that I and my colleagues can come into town, get people all excited about, and then leave and say lots of luck. We really insist that there be this kind of infrastructure to support those people who now understand how they are thinking like entrepreneurs and what they can do next. So I consider eProv Studio the most critical component in our program. In addition to that, we have all these other components which I'll explain briefly. eProv Studio I just went into in detail, and that, as I say, here we are working with seniors so that they could reimagine and renew their lives rather than retire from them. The Senior Entrepreneurship Works at Baruch College is a free online open source entrepreneurship curriculum which anybody can access online. Then we have also at Baruch what we call the IVE, the Institute for Virtual Enterprise. What's important about this institute is that it is an opportunity for seniors, or indeed any entrepreneur, to test their business idea through simulation. The entire program is a simulation of starting your business, marketing your business, return on investment, everything that you would do to launch a business in real time, they can do in virtual time through this Institute for Virtual Enterprise. And it's a global network. There are thousands of schools across the globe and more than 40 countries involved in supporting this program and in supporting global entrepreneurship. We also work with the Global Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education. And again, this is really just sort of so that we are continually tapping in and accessing the best education that really helps people understand and learn how to be an entrepreneur and how to start a business. It's continually evolving. So we are part of this consortium where everybody shares ideas and strategies and methods in terms of what is the most effective learning tool. And for our research, we use the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, which is a key tool that really countries around the world. The EU uses this tremendously. As I said, I just came back from Ireland, and they have a program in Ireland called Senior Enterprise, which has been supported by the EU and the Prince's Fund as being a model program for senior entrepreneurs. And the EU has identified it with a €2 million grant to be replicated throughout Europe, because the EU has in their 2020 plan senior entrepreneurship as a strategic initiative for economic recovery in Europe. And when I first met the person from Senior Enterprise Ireland, he called me, he was asking about my program, and he said, now I know you're much bigger than we are. We just have a €2 million grant. And I said, number one, I said, you must never call a United States nonprofit representative and say you only have a €2 million grant. But what is so interesting is he said, I know, and we have this money, and I've now been invited to present on this topic before the EU Commission on entrepreneurship. And I said, well, this is so ironic, because whenever I speak, I talk about the fact that Ireland and Scotland and the EU in general are way ahead of the United States in recognizing this as an opportunity. And they say, yes, we may be ahead of you, but the United States is still considered number one. And what's happening in the United States is critical to what's happening over here. So we need you to come and share what you're doing. And it's really just a phenomenal learning experience, because they share what works, and what's happening over there gives me an opportunity to come back here and advance senior entrepreneurship in this country. So again, as I said earlier, it is indeed a global movement. And the very last part of the actual academic, if you want to call it academic or curriculum-related program, is the eeprom Challenge Accelerator. And we have this is like a, we refer to it as an accelerator like speed dating. It's really just a 4-hour workshop where entrepreneurs can come into this workshop where we've gathered experts in a particular topic. Say someone has a challenge in terms of their marketing or a challenge in any other aspect of their business. So we bring in experts in that field, and the entrepreneur has a chance to do a rocket pitch of what that challenge is. And everybody in the room, people come to the room, they receive an invitation because they have agreed to help this person in some way, shape, or form, either working through what the challenge is or coming up with possible solutions to that challenge. And it's a very generative experience. And people are crazy about it because it is so fast and so effective. And what we like to say is that we consider entrepreneuring not an individual sport. It is, if you do it in community, you're going to amplify the results. These are just some of the guiding principles we have, and I'll go through again. This is very quickly in terms of it being reality-based. We're trying to replace the noun entrepreneurship, which is so intimidating, with the verb entrepreneuring, to take the intimidation out of that entrepreneurship, recognizing there are many different kinds of entrepreneurs and that anybody can become an entrepreneur. You don't have to be born one. And it's our experience that people have learned, and they can do this. If they think more about being creative instead of being an entrepreneur, they can proceed at an incredible speed in terms of entering this arena. And again, we say we're unleashing the potential for everyone to create a more just, equitable, and mutually beneficial civil society. And as I said, we're working very closely with the people in Sarasota, and we love the fact that the Institute for the Ages have in their slogan, we talk about unleashing the potential, and they have so aptly noted that potential never gets old. Mm-hmm. And these are just our entrepreneurs of all kinds and shapes. And then we talk about how you can harness the individual and collective experience of older adults. You can help energize entrepreneurial communities to foster an entrepreneurial approach to economic development. In my workshop for the Federal Reserve, I was invited because they really are embracing the fact that economic development in this country is entrepreneurially driven. So what do they need to do in their communities? This was amongst their community economic development leaders, and how they can foster senior entrepreneurship to really move this economic development forward. We also need, and all of you in different ways can help to create space in our economy and society for entrepreneurship innovation. And you can support the swelling numbers of self-employed small and micro businesses who are driving a new round of economic and social progress and prosperity. Just looking at this data, from 2009 to 2010, which was the first year of economic recovery, the largest employers in the United States shed over 1 million jobs, or 113 a month. The smallest employers created, in this same time frame, they created 6.8 million jobs, or 569,000 a month. So we are not talking about the Bill Gates. We are talking about senior entrepreneurs and their small businesses hiring a single individual and driving down that unemployment in this country. You can also stimulate robust investment in entrepreneurship programs, policy, capitalization, and research. This can be done through public funding. It can be done through leveraged private investment, community philanthropy, or impact investment. You can also proactively integrate innovators of all ages. We're huge advocates of intergenerational programs, as I've said many times throughout this presentation. And those people, those younger people who are creating projects and services for that $15 trillion senior market, who in addition to creating products and services, also can be working with the seniors and helping those senior entrepreneurs, some of whom are also creating products aimed at seniors. The other aspects that you can all help with is building new and innovative alliances among public and private stakeholders, including those on this telephone call or others in the room where you are now, others in your organization. Anyone who is interested in investing in the health and well-being of seniors to translate their missions into socially and economically healthy communities can work together. And these public-private alliances are going to be enormously important. The governments obviously cannot totally underwrite senior entrepreneurship. They cannot underwrite the entitlement programs. But with the combination of public and private investment, we really can do a lot to stimulate senior entrepreneurship and new business startup. I was at a meeting just recently with the Virgin Group, and of course Richard Branson himself is, well, he doesn't like to be called a senior entrepreneur, but he is a senior entrepreneur, and they have really just begun to think about the fact that they are marketing to seniors in many different ways, and they have been extremely successful at that. And they also have a program where they, it's called Virgin Money, where they invest in young entrepreneurs from between the ages of 18 to 30. So they invited me in to talk about the fact that, you know, if you're over 30, and I said, well, let's talk about if you're over 50, and gave them some of the same kind of data. So what they are trying to do, and Virgin represents really sort of a little microcosm of this public-private investment, because Virgin has its charity arm, which is Virgin Unite, but it also has its for-profit arm and its investment arm. And so they are thinking that while they are doing charitable good works for seniors, they might also be earning money from that demographic. So what I say, it's you need to wrap your mind around the whole concept of whether you're selling to seniors or investing in seniors. And in some cases, you can be doing both. So you're exponentially increasing the social and economic benefits of this demographic. And again, it's just in terms of individual sponsoring, or if you're sponsoring programs for seniors and in terms of their training, education, mentoring, shared spaces where they might work, incubators and accelerators for seniors, local, national, and international forums. This webinar is just sort of like a little drop in the bucket in terms of what we could be doing about raising the awareness nationwide of this opportunity. We can be creating think tanks for cross-sector thought leaders in the senior entrepreneurship arena. We did this with the Gerontological Society a year ago, October, and it was extremely successful because we brought in representatives from all four of those sectors: capitalization, programs, policy, and research, and sat them around the table and said, we need to create a blueprint of how we're going to move senior entrepreneurship forward. And it was the first convening of its type, and we have lots of room for more convenings across the country, indeed across the world.
Thank you. Please stand by.